Good afternoon, and welcome to a very special edition of Likeable Leaders. It's Memorial Day, and I am your host, Dave Turpin. We are going to be joined by a very special guest in just a moment. But first, I want to say, as always, if you're watching and want to win a prize, we're giving away a bunch of books, and the only way to win is to comment. So let me know where you're watching from, and to enter to win, maybe share some gratitude for a veteran. Share some gratitude for somebody that has fought for us. It is Memorial Day. So if you're in the United States, share some gratitude. If you're watching from somewhere else in the world, well, I guess any comment will allow you to enter to win one of my books or my apprentice business partner's new book that launched yesterday, Why Wait, which I'm really excited about. I'm going to change my background back to the standard now. And I'm going to welcome our special guest for the day, serial entrepreneur, longtime friend, former apprentice customer, and current founder and CEO of Odeko. Please welcome Dane Atkinson. Dane, good to see you, brother.
Hey. Nice to be here. Nice to see you, Dave. With
Thank
swapping
you so much.
backgrounds and everything.
Where are you? I'm guessing you're not at the office. Well, that of course you're not at the office. Are you at the home office today on this Memorial Day? Where are we finding you today?
I have swapped boxes. So I'm in a place we have on the Jersey Shore, which is very nice. So I've gone from one box to another.
Indeed, very nice. Well, thanks for joining me and taking some time on this Memorial Day. So you've had a really interesting career. We met when you were the CEO of SumAll because we did some work together when I was running Likeable Local, and we both have that social media background. But prior to SumAll, of course, you were the CEO of a tiny little internet company called SquareSpace. Tell me a little bit about your experience at SquareSpace, what you learned. Obviously, it's become one of the most important, kind of website companies in the world. What was it like working and running that ship that as Squarespace really evolved in the earlier days?
Well, so I've been lucky that most of my businesses have all focused on helping small business succeed, because I think that's an important part of the ecosystem that we all enjoy. It's kind of sad to imagine a world that doesn't have it. And Squarespace came directly after I ran a company that was a YouTube content or video content platform that helped people get content up. And it was actually still pretty early days, the idea that you could actually make a website. It seems kind of silly now, but a lot of our early days were just convincing the general population that they could make one, because it had been only the province of designers and developers. And we also wanted to fit in the ecosystem in a way that didn't actually hurt the designers and developers, but enable them. So it was an interesting educational market, which has obviously turned into now a very competitive market. To make sites. A lot of it, I think there was. Go on, Dave.
No, we unfortunately we do have a little internet connectivity issue. But so I thought you had stopped, but you had continued. So I believe you were talking about the passion for helping small businesses make their own website.
Yeah, I think that became a critical differentiator between the big business and the small business at that time, right? Like everyone that had a large entity had a very strong online presence, and the individuals were really paying a lot to see it happen. They didn't have the same thing with Likeable, right? Like they just didn't have the infrastructure to do a competitive job in that space. So we wanted to make that easy for them. And then Anthony, who was the original founder, had an amazing genetic DNA for design. So we embraced that modality and to make sure that everyone who came to us was beautiful, that the experience was beautiful, that they created was beautiful, that it represented their best. And I think even through the competitive marketplace that is now, that has sort of lasted through. Sort of the early, napkin genetics of a company tend to persist no matter what. And it has. Like, I think there's a lot of folks doing this now, but Squarespace is still easily considered the prettiest and creating the most professional look of any of the platforms out there.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, just last week we covered website building in our apprentice curriculum. We went over all the major providers, and I said that Squarespace was in fact my favorite for its beauty, where The other platforms are all do the job. Don't get me wrong, but don't have the sort of that same design focus and advantage. Speaking of design focus and advantage, I should mention that as usual on Likeable Leaders, we are illustrating our conversation. So I want to give a shout out to Aaron and the ImageThink team. Aaron will be illustrating this throughout the conversation, and we'll turn back to the illustration in just a little bit. But thank you in advance, Aaron, for that. Let's talk about selling to small business for a minute, Dane. It's a challenge that we've discussed before. We are both passionate about the space, but it is not an easy thing to do well. What keeps you going on it, and what do you think the keys to success are when building for and selling to the small business owner at scale?
Yeah, it is the most valuable market to try to help. Obviously, it's the biggest part of the economy. It's what colors our world, but it is the hardest group to sell to, because from a consumption standpoint, they buy as both an enterprise and as a consumer. So they anticipate the product to be as easy as Facebook, but as powerful as SAP, right? So finding that hybrid between the two groups is very tricky. There also are quick to opinion, right? So like in a lot of enterprise sales, you can fluff it and talk about how this is all working out great for you in the end of the day, but in SME sales, it has to work. So I think that the truest thing is product in that space, right? The product itself sells. If you have a good product, you can get a cost of acquisition that actually makes sense. If you don't, you're never gonna make it work. And finding a way to make that product usable in a sort of Facebook-like fashion again, but also strong. So it's an amazing place to be. And once you find the formula, and I selectively left in a lot of the companies I built, is that when you formula, the customers just fall into the bucket. They found a formula that works for them. Getting to that formula is incredibly hard. And a lot of founders tend to think they fit that formula too early and invest in their marketing, in which case they'll burn out their balance sheets really quickly. Whereas you really want to make sure that you found something that works for the small business user, legitimately works by tracking the metrics that they are seeing. And when that happens, then you can start to put the fuel elsewhere.
Fantastic. If you're just joining us, we are live with Dane Atkinson, serial entrepreneur and current CEO of Odeko. I'm going to get into that in just a moment. But first, we have our first winner. So congratulations to Cindy Montgomery. Cindy Montgomery, you have won your choice of any of my books or my partner Rob's new book, Why Wait? And the only way to win, if you haven't won yet, is to share a comment. So share a comment beneath the live stream here, and we will choose at least a couple more winners throughout our conversation. So, so speaking of passion for small businesses and serial entrepreneurship, you have a new company, relatively new company here. So talk to us a little bit about Odeko and the story behind it, and what you guys are up to, and how, if at all, you have been thinking about the company with the obviously kind of new landscape that we're all in.
So, I mean, Odeko is a great chapter in my long history in that it focuses on the brick and mortar business. It's a business that's really hard for them to get to. So we'd found that the point of sale had all become cloud-based, particularly for the QSR, like the quick service restaurants, particularly coffee shops, which is what we first focused on, that it gives you a visibility into what's happening. So Odeko started by building a predictive system that took that register data and married it to weather data and street traffic data and a lot of other things to predict the sales of a coffee shop. And then coffee shops were struggling with just trying to do their normal job, because it's incredibly hard to fight against Starbucks in a lot of ways. So we took over the whole ordering process. The system would predict what you need to buy, and then it'd buy it for the customer. That worked well, and that saved them a lot of money. But as we dove into it, we discovered that the food supply chain for small business is really messed up. It's just fragmented, a lot of small players, and a lot of people taking advantage of the small business because they can never organize to a body that can really defend themselves. So we had, been fortunate enough to build up tens of millions of buying power in our first year, and started consolidating that into a purchase pathway that dropped the cost of products much closer to Starbucks. So if you think about a paper cup, that actually costs more than a coffee often does. It's 16 cents or 18 cents. Starbucks is paying 4 cents, right? So we're able to get it down into the 8, 9 cents. And that makes a really big difference for them to survive, plus the technology that kind of operates it. So that was working really well for us. we struck out and built up a quick company as always, but then COVID happened. And as I like to tell people, like, we live in Wuhan because it's New York, and we sell cruise boats because no coffee shops are open right now. It's a certain uphill battle these days, and we've been doing a ton to try to help them through it. So we opened up a hospital program where people could buy coffee cups from the local stores and actually pay the stores, and then we deliver those to the hospitals every day, doing thousands of cups a day. We helped pull all their chairs and redesign the shop so they would be COVID compliant. And now we're just trying to find ways to economically support them, because this reopening has been really hard. Most coffee shops across the country are at 30-40% of revenue, the ones that are open. In Europe, we're seeing them get to about 60% now because they're a little bit ahead, but they're still operating way below what their cost basis would allow them to survive at. So we're really worried about the future, knowing that the QSR and food and restaurants all have to come back, but it's going to be a rough path.
I just read about the economics of the delivery companies, and how companies, coffee shops as an example, that are in staying open and delivering are paying so much to the delivery companies that they're essentially losing money. Any thoughts around, because you're the master of the pivot, in terms of building technology or supporting the coffee shops around the delivery aspects of the business, or do the Grubhubs and Seamlesses and DoorDashes of the world have too strong a stranglehold at this point?
No, I don't think so. So we're merging with a company that is an order ahead company in the next few weeks, so we can extend our functionality stack to pickup and delivery. We're kind of surprised at how the delivery partners didn't take a long-term view, and they really did put a lot of pressure on their small business partners to get through this. But as Dave, like, that seems to be the story we keep on running into in our lives, that small business always gets put out on the end of the stick. I don't think that the conventional system for a lot of the QSR works. So Postmates and DoorDash are very expensive, and they're built on this larger geographic foundation that they'd be running across entire cityscapes. We did a study across a few markets and found that most of the delivery for coffee shops was happening within like a 5-block radius. So I think there's a new model of what coffee shops are going to become, particularly if Corona lasts long, in the sense that there will be a delivery partnership that works in a small radius.
Shoot, Dane, we're having some internet.
But I don't see the light in coffee for some time, so there's going to be sort of a bit of transformation. Yeah.
I missed the last thing you said. Can you repeat it one more time? Because I'm sure it was really smart, and I totally couldn't hear it because of Wi-Fi issues.
I'll try to make it smarter since I'm getting a second chance. I think that the industries are all going to shift. There's going to be a new way to deliver within a 5 blocks radius, a new way to pick up. They'll sit in a store cramped with other people, probably won't come back just from PTSD. So their stores are all going to transform, locations are going to transform. In a way, it's a forest fire for our area, right? And the new plants that come up are going to be much more inclined to this future than the trees that were there before. Easy process, but it will be on the other side of this to it, meaning on a DoorDash and Postmates or anyone else.
Cool, thank you. Well said. Though I don't know if it was better said than the first time, since I couldn't hear the first time. So only you know. Yeah. Okay.
Far better.
We're going to turn to the likable pyramid in just a moment. But first, if you have any questions for Dane about small business, selling to small business, running a small business, he's the man on this, really, and I'm happy to take your questions and share them with him. One question I have for you, Dane, is if you're a small business watching, if you're a small business owner watching, and you're nervous about cash in the future, what one piece of advice would you share to a retail small business owner, whether it's a coffee shop or an independent bookstore or a gift store, or paper store, any of the sort of traditional retail brick and mortar store owners out there?
So I would say your survival is actually really important to humanity's culture, and you have to find a way to survive. Small business operators tend to actually have souls, really deep meaning souls that care about their community. So they don't want to not pay rent because they know it hurts their landlord, and they don't want to not pay their employees. They know it hurts their employees, but the first thing is you must make sure you're a business that can hire people back in 6 months. So we got statistics on all the major chains. None of them are paying their rent. We've gotten statistics on how they're treating employees, and it's very tough as a small business operator, but you have to find a way to get through this. I would also just caution, as we do to our coffee shops, that there's going to be a lot of interim periods that are going to be tough. So very cautiously, you might think you're coming back and you may invest to come back, but then you have to close down again, or you can't make the business work. So I think being patient and looking for ways that your model can be changed is the way to come through it. Also, as sad as it sounds, be optimistic, because if you can get through, the best companies in the technology category, the best companies in almost every category come after these waves, right? Where you can really get great people to do great things, and you can be a really big part of your community. Today, you need to make sure you're there to do it. You need to preserve your own psyche to get there, because it's tough. It's a lot of punches in the face.
Yeah. So survive at any means. I heard you say survive by any means necessary, and be optimistic by any means necessary, essentially. Appreciate that. Okay, so Aaron, if you can pull up, please, the likable pyramid. And Dane, each week we ask our guests on Likable Leaders to talk about the aspects of the likable pyramid that resonate the most with them as leaders. Before I ask you which resonates the most with you, I'm going to invite our audience, as usual, to share which quality of leadership resonates the most with you, of the following: listening, storytelling, passion, teamwork, surprise and delight, responsiveness, simplicity, authenticity, transparency, adaptability, and gratefulness. I'll pick one person from our audience that's sharing to win the next book. And I will now ask you, Dane, which resonates, which one or two of these resonate the most for you?
First off, it's a bloody brilliant pyramid, so thank you. I'm gonna have to find a way to get it from you to share with everybody else. I think in this scenario, I fall towards the middle top part of this. So I think that I've learned that you can't survive in this world without being just transparent and hopefully authentic by the nature of that, and just always being stunned at how amazing our lives and opportunities are. We can create a company that changes the world, with an idea, and that's never existed in history. So I am always grateful for anyone who's crazy enough to hang around with me and for the things that we can do. But I don't think you can get through this without having a lot of that pyramid working for you. It is, it is like the blueprint to success.
Well, I was going to say adaptability is sort of the giveaway these days, right? It's like how if you're not adaptable, then you're really, really screwed, I think. I mean, I probably would have, obviously I would have said that a few years ago even, but I think now more than ever, it's really, it's just super valuable. So thank you for sharing. We do have a couple of questions from our audience. So thanks again for those questions. Keep them coming in. And I have a second winner as well. So Judith Davis, congratulations, Judith Davis. Also of New York. Wow, it's funny because we have a global audience, but actually, this is the first time I can remember 2 New Yorkers ever winning. So very exciting. Represent New York today. Also, Dane, is it me or are there other birds nearby? I could have sworn I heard birds chirping as you spoke. I don't know if you heard that, or maybe I'm just imagining things.
It's just the aura. Just the aura. No, there are plenty of birds around here.
I was like, wow, that's really peaceful. Okay, so Christian Henningsen wants to know about screen communication. How do you get messages, screen presence? How do you get messages across online? Screen presence. So, I mean, I'll take first stab at that since that's probably a little bit more up my alley, but Dane, certainly if you want to add anything. I think getting messages across online is all about consistency and I would say repeatability. One of my favorite Quora posts. Quora is this question and answer post, and somebody did an experiment on Quora. I may have told you this story one of the first days I met you when we were talking about social media, Dane. So I apologize if you've already heard this story, but the audience hasn't. So there's a question on Quora about what's the most interesting experiment that you ran, and somebody said they ran an experiment where every single day they changed their birthday on Facebook to the current day. And they were determined to change their birthday to the current day every day until nobody wished them a happy birthday. And that person changed their birthday on Facebook every day for over 300 days. So literally amongst their own friends, every single day for over 300 days, there was at least one or two people that were not paying attention and still thought it was their birthday. So the reason I love this experiment is, to me, it's pretty good proof, pretty good evidence of the fact that at any given moment, very, very, very few of your audience members are actually paying attention. So what happens is people develop content, they develop messaging, and then they put it out like once. And then they're like, okay, how did that do? Well, so to me, the moral of the story is put it out once, twice, 3 times, 10 times, 20 times, 50 times. I sometimes repeat the same content. If I think it's good content, I'll repeat it literally 50 times. And I've never got one person that says to me, why are you sharing the same content on social media that you shared 3 weeks ago? Because at any given time, like 1 or 2% of my audience is paying attention, which means 98 to 99% of my audience is not. So that's my nugget in terms of getting messages across online. I don't know if you want to add anything, Dane.
Well, I'll double up on that one. So I think that there are a lot of things that are important to do right now, but making sure you're inclusive of your audience is really good. So we found Miro to be a pretty good hack. So we create these whiteboards in the background, and before a meeting, we'll have like, do you like working at home? Do you not like working at home? What are your things? And while we're going through the process, everyone is bringing ideas. So we've gone into a line, so we do count offs, like everyone vote 2 for this or 3 for that, just to make sure that participation is visually recognized because of the gallery views we can now experience. So I think to Dave's point, probably no one's listening to me anyways. So finding these little hacks that make people feel like they're engaging back and forth will certainly up the odds that something is sunken in.
Indeed. Well, I think people are listening, although that we are having some Wi-Fi issues, Dane, again. So can you repeat or spell the name of the app that you mentioned that you use? It started with an M, Miro?
It's Miro, M-I-R-O. It's
cool.
Great.
Cool. I learned something new. Very exciting. I love learning new stuff. Okay. Another question, is it sunset for POS products because of COVID-19? What's the future of POS products for in a sort of post-COVID world? That's an interesting question.
It depends on which company. So no, the idea of being able to transact in a store is not going to disappear. Obviously, they're all moving to order-ahead and mobile kind of transactions.
Cool.
Some of them are really well positioned balance sheet. So it's going to be a turbulent time for that too.
Yeah.
Sorry, all I was saying was
it's such good stuff too.
Each company sort of has a different foothold. Some of them aren't going to make it. Some of them are.
Cool. We're gonna have to go in just a moment. But I want to remind everyone that they can win our grand prize.
The order ahead.
Sadly, Dane, I'm gonna have to talk over you because we can't hear you. It's a bummer. But hopefully you'll come back in just a moment. In the meantime, if you are watching and you want to win a grand prize, any 2 books of mine or Rob's, I do not have Rob's book on me. Why Wait? Art of People, Likeable Social Media, lots of choices. You win 2 books if you're a grand prize winner. We have one more question from Jorge Zayas asking, Dane, should a small brick and mortar business make a deeper investment into e-commerce? And how can you monetize that while keeping the brick and mortar sustainable? Wow, really good questions actually today. So thanks everyone for tuning in and asking questions. So if you're a small brick and mortar business, how deep an investment should you make in e-commerce to sort of along the lines of what you said in terms of survival? Now Dane is completely frozen, so I have no idea if he's even heard the question. So I'm going to try to stall for a moment while hopefully he gets Wi-Fi back. And
a lot that we're working with have pivoted hugely.
I only heard the very tail end of this, unfortunately, frozen. So once again, a chance to be a little bit more concise and even smarter, if you heard my question.
I did. Can you guys hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that the pivot is critical to any kind of future, but it's also just pivoting your core business. So we've seen a lot of coffee shops move directly into wholesale and been successful because they had enough infrastructure to make that work. And we've seen some try and just spend a lot of money not getting there. I think trying to get our crystal ball to tell us what the hell the future is a challenge we're all facing. But it's hard to perceive any that doesn't have a lower contact, smaller cost base scenario, which e-commerce can do. The problem is e-commerce is not a holy ground, as Dave mentioned. We've seen companies fight for that ground for 10 years just to get visibility. So I would caution people from over investing in that. I would encourage people to dip their in, try to get social to drive some traffic there and see where and be scrappy, but it can work.
Awesome. We're going to give away our grand prize in just a moment. Last chance to post a comment in order to win. While we do that, this is going to be an interesting one because the Wi-Fi did cut in and out, but we're going to see how well we were able to capture all of the wisdom from Dane Atkinson, serial entrepreneur and CEO of Odeko. Let's take a look, please, Aaron, at the ImageThink output from today and what you have drawn for us. And wow, as always, pretty amazing and beautiful. We've got, of course, the likable pyramid, but you knew that was coming. We're talking about helping small businesses succeed with online presence, the design-centric focus of SquareSpace, which helped it be so successful, Odeko, and finding ways to support small shops in this time. Talking about finding your formula, the importance of defining that key metric, how retail does need to change, and one thing that that came across very well from your talk, as it always does, Dane, is how strongly you feel about local and community, and I feel equally passionate about that. So it's been a delight having you today. Our grand prize winner is Nicholas Johnson of Durham, North Carolina. Couldn't have a trifecta with New York, but that's okay. Nicholas Johnson of Durham, North Carolina, congratulations. We will get a couple books out to you. And I want to thank everyone that helped to make this show possible today. Thank you so much to the team from ImageThink, and specifically Aaron from ImageThink. Thanks to my apprentice, Sam, for producing for us today. Thanks, of course, to Dane Atkinson. Dane, always a pleasure to see you. The serial entrepreneur and CEO of Odeko. And thanks most of all to you guys, our audience, for tuning in. Much appreciated. Until next time, everyone, have a safe and happy rest of your Memorial Day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dave.